Joining us now from Atlanta, law policy analyst at Harvard Law School and assistant law professor at the University of Louisville, Dr. Laura McNeil. You've worked closely with police departments on how to work with youth in urban communities. First of all, what do you make of the interview with Officer Wilson, and do you feel that he answered to some of the really screaming questions out there in terms of race and how he treated Michael Brown right before his death?
I found Officer Wilson's interview to be quite disturbing, to be honest. He stated that he could not have done anything differently. But if you consider you have an unarmed teen jaywalking in the street with a handful of cigarillos that ends up on the floor in the middle of the street in a pool of blood dead, clearly he could have done something differently. And so I also found it disturbing that he seems to have such little remorse. I mean, there is a loss of a child's life, and he just seemed very almost stoic with respect to his response.
What could he have done differently that day?
Well, part of the problem is what the tragic death of Michael Brown represents is the practice of using adult policing practices on youth. Currently here in the United States, very few police departments actually include training on things such as youth developmental competence, meaning how do you de-escalate a situation from jaywalking to keep it from escalating to the point of murder.
You say youth, he's 18, was 6'4", and actually, if the testimony is correct, charged into the police officer's car and started punching. I've had the conversation around the table here. If I, a 6'4" man, did that in any community in America, chances are very good a police officer would grab for his or her gun and possibly use it against me, even though I'm white. Is that not fair to say?
I think that's an interesting point that you've made. However, yes, he was 6'4" and 18, but developmentally his mind was that of a teenager. And based on studies that have been done in research in the area, teenagers are slower to respond to police commands. And so there are still things that Officer Wilson could have done as the adult in the situation, again, to de-escalate the situation from the jaywalking into a more peaceful outcome. He could have adjusted his behavior, language, and timing.
You say that I make an interesting point. I wonder if you think it is the case, in fact, that
really?
Let's say in a traffic stop, I get out of the car and charged at a cop. I think because, again, I'm 6'4", of course much older, but I just find it hard to believe that there's not a cop in America that wouldn't consider taking very aggressive actions against me to put me down.
I think that a police officer would want to take aggressive action against you under those circumstances, but again, had Officer Wilson had training, it wouldn't have even gotten to the level of Michael Brown charging him, and that's, again, allegedly charging him. He would have been able, again, to transition from a jaywalking violation to perhaps a more peaceful arrest. So I still think that the lack of training amongst youth, and I have to be quite frank with you, there's definitely some implicit bias here, meaning these unconscious bias. He described Michael Brown's face as looking like a demon. Would he have described you as looking like a demon, meaning a white male of the same
Well, I mean, if anybody's ever seen me charging at them, then yes, they would say I look like a crazy...
No, I think Dr. McNeil's point is absolutely right, that there are unconscious biases, and it's incredibly hard for us to get to the bottom of what Officer Wilson was really thinking and whether he would have treated a white suspect differently.